Good evening. This is a meeting of the Township Committee, November 19, 2018. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. The notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Star Ledger, the Independent, and the Trooper Times, and by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk all on January 18, 2018. Committeeman Heidel.
Here.
Committeeman Perry.
Here.
Committeewoman Snell. Here. Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Here.
Mayor Sedembrino.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our constitutions, freedoms, and way of life. Thank you. Our first two items on the agenda tonight are proclamations to be read for the record. We have a proclamation recognizing December 7, 2018 as Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day in Middletown Township, and a proclamation declaring National Impaired Driving Prevention Month for December 2018. At this time, I'd like to invite Deputy Chief Stefanski and your family to please come forward, and Chief Weber from the Middletown Police Department.
So this evening we have a proclamation. This is in recognition of the Deputy Police Chief Robert Stefanski, who graduated from the FBI at National Academy. This is no small accomplishment. I'm going to take a couple minutes. We do have some information in the proclamation, so it was taking some time to write. So I do want to read that to you, so you can understand what it took to graduate from the FBI Academy. And this is the actual FBI Academy that is not, it's the real one. So we're very proud of the Deputy Chief. I want to take a moment to take a couple minutes to read the proclamation. And Chief, I'd like to say a couple words with regard to that, please. Thank you. So this is a proclamation from the Office of the Mayor, Deputy Chief of Police Robert Stefanski, dated November 19, 2018. It says, whereas Deputy Chief Robert Stefanski began his career with the Middletown Township Police Department as a civilian communications operator in 1987. Hired as a patrol officer in 1990, he rose in rank over the years and was promoted to sergeant in 1999, lieutenant in 2008, and deputy chief in 2015. And whereas Deputy Chief Stefanski will complete his 31st year of service in November 2018. He is currently the commander of the Investigative and Technical Services Divisions, which include detectives, records, IT, community relations, training, planning, and budgeting, and special operations. You still get your work done during that. That's a lot. So whereas in September 2018, Deputy Chief Stefanski graduated from the 273rd session of the FBI National Academy Program at Quantico, Virginia. Internationally known for its academic excellence, the program offers 10 weeks of advanced communication, leadership, and fitness training for selected officers who have proven records as professionals within their agencies. And whereas the National Academy Program held at the FBI Academy consisted of 228 law enforcement officers from 48 states. Also included in the class were members of law enforcement agencies from the District of Columbia, 25 international countries, 4 branches of the U.S. military, and 5 federal civilian organizations. And whereas nationally, fewer than 1% of officers have completed the opportunity to attend the program. Deputy Chief Stefanski is the 10th officer in the Middletown Township Police Department to complete this program. And whereas the Mayor and the Middletown Township Committee wish to commend Deputy Chief Stefanski for his commitment to building upon his expertise as a dedicated leader in the Middletown Township Police Department. And now, therefore, I, Mayor Kevin M. Sedembrino, and the Middletown Township Committee do hereby congratulate Deputy Chief Robert Stefanski on completing this prestigious program and for representing Middletown so well. So without giving away any secrets from the FBI, can you take a couple minutes to tell us a little bit about your experience there?
Yeah, first I'd like to thank the chief and Mr. Michael Conti and members of the committee for the support of the police department. I'll be away for 10 weeks. I really don't know who this is more, my wife, the chief. My wife and the chief are not. It was an amazing, once-in-a-lifetime experience. The networking and the classes I took down there are phenomenal. Two of the most important ones, especially today, one was a media class taught by, if anybody remembers, Gail Pennybacker. She was the reporter who handled the DC sniper shooting. She now teaches exclusively for the FBI and how to handle major incidents. God forbid we ever have one. The other one that was really important, especially now, was the cybercrime class I took. And the cybercrimes unit, obviously people deal with internet fraud and being scammed on the internet and computers getting hacked and compromised. There's a lot involved in that class also. I really enjoy it. And again, God forbid something happens, I don't do that. The networking we get with international students and other departments around the country is just unbelievable. There's people, I know the chief is a graduate of the program, and I know he still is in contact with people he went with back in Chief? 2007. The other advantage was the physical training, completing a course, called Yellow Brick Road. It's the 6.1-mile obstacle course at the Green Corps base. And I wasn't first, but I wasn't last. And I was probably third or fourth oldest guy in the class. I remember 40 years old. So it was an amazing experience, and I hope you can experience it back and help the department, the chief, and members of the government body.
Thank you so much. Chief, any comments?
Just briefly, I think everything's already been said, but the program was actually established in 1935 by the FBI Director J. Gruber. It was originally in Washington, D.C., moved to Marine Corps Base Quantico, which is about 38 miles south of Washington, D.C. Really unique place. They have the Marine Corps Embassy Guard School, Officer Candidate schools there. The Drug Enforcement Administration has their academies there, as well as the FBI Academy and the FBI Crime Laboratory. As the Deputy Chief alluded to, they're some of the most brilliant experts from around the world instructing and also attending. It was a gift to go. I had 26 foreign police executives from around the world in my class. One of them went on to become the first female president of the country of Kosovo. This shows you the talent that you're there with. And Deputy Chief Stefanski represented the agency very well. We're very fortunate to have him, a very gifted administrator. One of the people I've gone over my career when I need advice for sending him side. So very happy for him that he completed the program. We're proud of him, and they said he's not going to be that much better of an administrator as he really is.
Thank you very much. So on behalf of the Township Committee, congratulations again.
Our next item on tonight's agenda, we have the approval of minutes for May 21st, 2018, June 4th, 2018, June 18, 2018, July 16, 2018, August 20th, 2018, September 17, 2018, and October 1st, 2018.
A motion to approve, please. Second.
Committeeman Tybell?
Yes.
Committeeman Perry?
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow? Deputy Mayor Fiore?
Yes.
Mayor Sedambrino?
Yes.
Motion carries to approve minutes. Our first item on tonight's public hearing agenda, we have 2018-3236, an ordinance adopting amended Municipal Complex Redevelopment Plan for Block 815, Lots 1.01, 6, and 7 of the official tax map of the Township of Middletown.
2018-3236, we move to open to the public on the second reading. What I've asked the clerk to do is generate for me a list of anyone that would like to speak with regard to this. Can you open the public hearing? Move for public hearing, right? Okay. So I do have a list with me for people that are wishing to speak with regard to 2018-3236. I'm going to pull up that list. When I'm done with the list, if there's anyone else wishing to speak, we can certainly entertain that as well. So the first person on the list is Danielle Reed. Please come to the microphone and state your name and address, please. No, Danielle Reed. Side issues. Oh, man. This is with regard to 2018-3236. Public hearing?
No, that's not the topic.
That's, okay, so we'll hold it until the end of the meeting then?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Tricia McGuire, please.
Trish McGuire, 49 Foxwood Run. First, I'd like to congratulate Tricia, Tony, and Rick on our winning the election. Congratulations, and I wish you well in serving your terms. I wanted to see if we might be able to just simply address the rumors that are swirling around town on the financials of the municipal complex project. I have read that...
I'm sorry to interrupt you. So this is 2018-3236, which is the ordinance for the Municipal Complex Redevelopment Plan. So
Yes.
the hearing has to be, so you can ask any of your questions other than at the end of the meeting. But the questions now are specific to this ordinance. This ordinance is a redevelopment plan adoption, which does not have, there's no cost or values in this. This is a redevelopment plan, right? So I know what you're thinking, maybe these, if you have questions with regard to some potential costs, you can ask them at the end of the meeting. This hearing is only for the redevelopment ordinance.
So, in the process, I'm still not seeing anywhere that I looked any traffic studies or any impact that traffic would have. Would that not be also part of this ordinance that you're voting on, Steve?
For the second reading redevelopment ordinance, no.
Correct. Okay. So there's no details on financials or traffic studies?
No, there's certainly no financials because this is a master plan zoning item. This is not this ordinance does not entitle us to build anything, do anything of that nature. This is a zoning item.
Okay.
Is all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kate Andrews, please. I'm just having problems reading some of the writing. That's.
Hi,
You have to go up the microphone, please.
I'm also on the list for the open comments. I'm not
So sure you don't want to speak about the ordinance.
Not about the ordinance.
Okay, all right, no problem. Thank you. Monica Manning, please.
I'll wait till the end. Thank you.
So at the end, so this is specific to this ordinance, so you don't have any comments with regard to this ordinance?
I do, but you just pretty much said that it's not specific to the amended part of it.
It's not specific to the ordinance, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Diane Fissler.
Hi, I'm not speaking on this issue.
Okay, thank you. And Barrett. Is it you?
Teal, that's right. I'm not speaking on this issue either, Mayor.
All right, sir, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak with regard to 2018-3236? Leo.
Here to stop the Shady Oaks, Middletown. Congratulations to the people who entered the election and lost. And also, congratulations to those who won. Thanks to all 6 of you for participating and bringing some spirit and life to the township. I have an educational question. I'm not for or against anything in this particular ordinance. I understand that it's a hearing and it's not to be automatically limited to 5 minutes unless the presider decides that there's no more intelligent questions to be answered. But I do have a question. It says, I have written down ordinance number 2017-32
This is
is to be repealed by the adoption of this ordinance that's brought up in this agenda.
you should be 2018-3236, Leo.
Yeah. Ordinance number 2017-32 is being repealed.
Right.
My educational question is, what is being changed from the soon-to-be repealed ordinance by the adoption of the new one? I'll take my seat, but you can answer that question. I suspect my question stems from I haven't gone to any zoning meetings and any, what's the other one? Planning board, so maybe it's too much to explain. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Mr. Murphy.
So the ordinance that we have before us now is an amendment to an ordinance that was previously adopted, so that the entire previous ordinance is not being repealed, just the portions of it that are being changed with this amendment. The amendment has to do with a few minor components of the ordinance, one having to do with the height of the municipal building, going from 40 to 50 feet. That was done so that we could accommodate a pitched roof if that is determined to be the ultimate architectural design. That hasn't been settled upon just yet. It also clarifies that if there are architectural embellishments like the clock tower, that those would be exempt from height requirements, which they typically are in most other zones. It limits the height of commercial structures, in other words, structures that are not municipal in nature, to 40 feet, which is pretty typical for commercial zones, and it modifies the height of a sign from 12 feet to 25 feet due to an issue with the curve in the highway that makes sign viewing somewhat difficult along with existing uses there, so we felt that a taller sign would probably be would likely be necessary, although again, no design has been completed for the sign yet. Those are the only items being amended.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard in 2018-3236, please? Mr. Watson.
I'll go after him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go for it. You're up there.
No, I raised his hand. You just walked up.
Okay.
Ooh.
Wait for Mr. Watson. Mr. Watson?
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name's Don Watson, living at 1 Collinson Drive. Ordinance shall be repealed. And then it goes on to say sections of it being repealed. I think that's not worded correctly. Mr. McGuire about some of the decisions that are being made about this ordinance. And I guess on the first page, about ongoing negotiations, during the process of ongoing negotiation. It was determined that certain redevelopment amendments should be adopted. Could you explain a little bit about what those negotiations were about to formulate that determination?
Well, those aren't really negotiations, but
Ongoing negotiations?
there are ongoing negotiations for the entire redevelopment project.
Right.
The specific amendments that we're talking about tonight are the ones I just went through relative to the building height, the signage height, and that's pretty much it. So those are the amendments to the previously adopted plan.
So you're saying that's what was determined through these ongoing negotiations?
What I'm saying is, in negotiating and working with the developer that we're working with to come up with a design for the site, those amendments are determined to be needed. There are still a lot of other things still being negotiated relative to the overall
Right.
project. But right now, we're just talking about the physical design, physical layout of the complex.
Okay, so the answer to my question is yes.
I wasn't sure what your question was. You didn't really, I mean,
I just thought negotiations were,
these were a component of working with the developer on a site plan. I wouldn't call those negotiations, I would just call those, working with an applicant.
what this is calling it negotiations.
Well, it's referring to, there's a larger picture of ongoing negotiations with the developer regarding the entirety of the project. This is just a small piece of it.
Right.
But I wouldn't call these as a result of negotiations per se.
Negotiations.
If you want to use the word negotiations, that makes it feel
Well,
good.
I'm using it because it's in the ordinance.
Yeah, the ordinance is not referring to specifically this, but that's okay. I get that, I get that. So, but design standards aren't necessarily negotiated. The township is essentially in control of how the building gets designed in terms of its square footage, its height, and layout, and all that. It's not negotiated, that's a township decision.
Right. I was also wondering why Exhibit A wasn't attached to this amendment. Where it says it's attached. It may part hereof as Exhibit A.
That I don't know. It's probably the actual plan,
The plan,
the ordinance itself.
I believe it's on the website. Yeah,
This is
that's
before
it,
that?
that's it.
Okay.
It's on the website.
Yeah, that's up on the website. This will be attached to this order. Cool. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Burns.
Good evening, Sean Burns, 880 West Front Street. I too would like to congratulate Mrs. Heritage Title on their recent election victory, members of all well, and their service to the township. Just process-wise, I heard a mention of the second reading. Is this the second reading, or is this?
This is the second reading.
When was the first reading?
2 months ago.
I know it was pulled, but I didn't know it was on the agenda before that. It's been sent to the planning board, is that right?
It has been sent to the plan.
The changes.
Yeah, they responded, yes.
They did, in writing?
Yes.
Okay. Is that available where there was?
You can, ask, I don't have it with me, but the planner sent a response after their meeting.
Okay. And I assume it was favorable.
Yes.
But that would be something we could have as a response. The design changes, I assume, are driven even though I know this is a redevelopment plan, and not necessarily a specific actual final design. I'd assume the redevelopment changes are driven by some idea of where you want to do with the buildings.
Yeah, by what we want to do with the building and, or at least giving us the flexibility depending on what the final architectural design turns out to be. That's what it was driven by.
That's it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Anyone else wishing to be heard on 2018-3236? Seeing none, a motion to close to the public and approve, please.
Second.
Committeeman Iva.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snell.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass ordinance 2018-3236 on second and final reading. Our next ordinance for public hearing, we have 2018-3240, an ordinance establishing Community Assistance Network Volunteer Advisory Committee.
Thank you. So I'd like to open up 2018-3240 to the public for any questions or comments, please, on second reading. Mr. Watson. It's a long walk, second time.
I'm repeating it in my mind, so I don't forget. Get over it, step by step. Good evening, my name is Don Watson, living at 1 Collinson Drive. I was curious as to when you're going to appoint members of this board.
So we would do it Jan 1, but we couldn't do it until if and after it was passed in second reading.
Okay, I thought it was mentioned that it was expedient that you do this before the holidays. So I was curious as to when you're going to appoint people to it. So it's not until the reorg meeting?
It may not be until the reorg meeting. That was our initial plan. If we can get it done sooner, we certainly can, but of course it's predicated on approval this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wants to be heard on 2018-3240? Seeing none, close to the public and motion to approve, please.
Committeeman Heibel.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass ordinance 2018-3240 on second and final reading. The next item on tonight's agenda, we have introduction of proposed ordinances. Our first ordinance, 2018-3237, an ordinance establishing township-funded death benefit incentive for volunteer firefighters and emergency medical services members.
Thank you. Motion to approve 2018-3237. Second.
Committeeman Heibel.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with a public hearing to be held at our workshop meeting in December. Our next ordinance for introduction, we have 2018-3241, an ordinance adopting policy regarding property tax exemptions for 100% disabled veterans.
Motion to approve 2018-3241, please.
Committeeman Heibel.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass this ordinance on first reading with a public hearing to be held also at our workshop meeting in December. Our next ordinance for introduction, 2018-3242, an ordinance adopting the half-mile road redevelopment plan for the delineated rehabilitation area of block 1088, lots 1 and 3.
Motion to approve 2018-3242, please. Second.
Committeeman Heibel.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass ordinance 2018-3242 on first reading with a public hearing to be held at our workshop meeting in December. At this time, I'd like to ask the Township Committee to adopt a consent agenda, which would include resolutions 18-239 through 18-252, and including raffle applications.
Motion to approve consent agenda, please. Second.
Committeeman Heibel.
Yes.
Committeeman Perry.
Yes.
Committeewoman Snow.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Yes.
Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Motion carries to pass consent agenda. This time we have Township Committee comments.
Thank you. Woman Snell, please.
First of all, thank you for your kind words this evening. It's very nice of you. And I'd like to congratulate you as well for a hard-fought campaign. It was really hard-fought. This is the first campaign for me, and it was a lot of hard work, but I wouldn't have done it with anybody else other than who I did it with. But I am glad it's over. Two things I had been to recently. I went to the backpack event, and it was a dance get-together for special needs children, and I had a great time. The kids were up dancing, they had a DJ who interacted with the kids, he was wonderful. Spoke with the parents, I think they were having as much fun watching their kids as the kids were dancing. And I also attended the Fort Monmouth Fire Company Awards dinner. And every time I go and I see our firefighters, I am just continually amazed at their professionalism and their dedication. Being all volunteer, it amazes me, the time and energy they put into it, so I applaud them all. Thank you.
Thank you, Committeeman Snell. Committeeman Rydell.
I'd like to also thank the residents of Middletown for their support, their confidence in myself and the other two that ran. I want to also thank Sean, Tricia, and Danielle. Thank you. It was a great campaign. I also wanted to also talk about what Pat mentioned the other night about our fire department. Last night around the same time, we had a structure fire in the Leonardo section of town. By the time where I live on Burlington Ave, the other end of the street, the time I was able to get down there, there already was a fire truck there putting water on the fire. Within 5 minutes, there was 50 volunteers in front of that house. It's just, being a past chief of the fire department, it's just amazing that we can get that many volunteers out to support what's so needed, and the quick response is just amazing. So also at that fire, I can share some pictures if anyone wants to see. We had a specialized piece of apparatus that we have there. It's a unique ladder truck that can get in those houses that are tight, and the elevated sandy houses. So they were able to use that in a fire there. So, I think that's all I have. Thank you again.
Thank you, Committeeman Rydell. Committeeman Perry.
Thank you, Mayor. Once again, I just want to thank the residents of Middletown. This was a great campaign, and I look forward to building on all the progress that we talked about, that we explained, that we outlined over the course of the past year, and I look forward to building on that progress. I want to congratulate Deputy Chief Stefanski. Is he still here? Oh, there he is. Yes.
He was thinking that.
I want to congratulate you, thank you for obviously taking the time away from your family, most importantly, for going down there and once again making not only the department proud, but the town proud. Thank you for doing that and staying down there. And then finally, I want to thank the Township Committee for approving tonight the Community Assistance Network. It's been quite a process, but this will be an unbelievable network that will be able to connect our residents, those in need, those looking for support, and be a one-stop shop. I look forward to working with you. I can't tell you the amount of people, and it's very nice to know that Deputy Chief Stefanski's better half was one of the first people to raise her hand and say, I want to be a part of this. My organization wants to be a part of this. That is not unique. All across Middletown, we have had people raising their hands saying, I want to be involved. How can I help? I don't want the recognition. I just want to help the people in need, the people around Middletown that have quiet voices, don't want to speak up, but need that help, need that assistance. And that's what this board that's what this network will do. So I'm grateful to the Township Committee for approving that tonight and making that a possibility. I look forward to putting the members on there as quickly as possible. And I want to thank the staff of the Mayor's office for helping me put that together, for coming up with that fun can name that we have. So I'm very grateful. So with that being said, again, thank you, and that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Committeeman Perry. Deputy Mayor Fiore.
Thank you, Mayor. Without my colleague, I would not have known that the Community Assistant Network is known as CAN. So but in more seriousness, first, a congratulations to my colleagues, Committeeman Perry, Committeeman Hybel, and Committeewoman Snell, on their victory. I look forward to serving with you all. A little bit of a weird year having 3 people to say congratulations to, but congratulations to you all. And more, just as importantly, and I know my colleagues have said it, it also a thank you to everyone who ran for election, for all offices. It is not an easy thing to put your name out there, to go through a campaign, and all that goes through with the campaign. So from every level, from the Township Committee to school board to all the way up to federal office, it's certainly something that is a passion and a labor of love, and something that people are trying to give back to their community, and I respect everyone who puts their name out there for that potential to serve the community. So it's always great to see when we have those people that are able to do that. So a few other quick items today, one of which I will not try to echo too much of what my colleague said, but one of the introduced ordinances tonight, Ordinance 2018-3241, adopting a policy regarding property tax exemptions for 100% disabled veterans. I don't think there's enough that we can do as not only a committee, but as a society for our veterans, specifically our disabled veterans. And I look forward to not only passing that ordinance at the next Township Committee meeting, but I look forward in 2019 and beyond trying to do even more for our veterans who have really done so and given so much for all of us to enjoy the lives and the freedoms that we all take for granted all too often. And that, started with, many things that we've done with our Veterans Affairs Committee, whether it be the Veteran Street sign dedications, but also I think we as a committee, as a township, and as a state need to do more for disabled veteran housing. And I know that we talk about COA quite often, and I know that we talk about affordable housing rules and regulations, but I would love to see this committee, I know we've looked at certain areas like at Fort Hancock, and I'm not sure that was met with such passion and fervor that maybe I and this committee had. But I think if there's a way that we can do more for disabled veterans and them to have housing and other things, and there's so many out there that are struggling, we see it every day, I think we should do that, and that's something that I hope this committee will make a priority, not only today as we're starting this ordinance, but for the future. And finally, just congratulations to Chief Stefanski. I know being away from your family is no small feat, and going through the FBI Academy is even a taller feat. So congratulations to you, sir. I appreciate everything that you do for the department, for the township, and your leadership. So congrats on your award. Finally, Thanksgiving is upon us this week, and I wish you all, on behalf of my family, to yours, a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving to you all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So a couple things. I certainly want to extend my congratulations to Tony and Rick on your victory, and I absolutely look forward to continuing the opportunity to work with all of you. But I also, I know that Tricia's here and Sean is here as well, and I don't know if Danielle is here, but I want to extend my thanks to all the candidates for running a fantastic election. It's these types of candidates and these types of things that make certain that we have dialogue with regard to everything that's important to the Township of Middletown. And at the end of the day, it makes the township better, and it makes the township stronger. So I look forward to working with, again, Tony, Pat, and Rick here on the dais to represent everyone here in Middletown. So I'm happy for the results. A couple of other items. With regard to the flood control project in Fort Monmouth, 2 weeks ago on Monday, we had about 150 people or so attend our update meeting with regard to that flood control project. Similarly, last week I did a couple-minute segment with Comcast Newsmakers on this flood control project in Fort Monmouth. It's about $115 million. It's fully federally funded, so it's no money from the taxpayers of Middletown Township. It's about 50% complete. The first phase of it was the extension, the beach extension, the groin extension, and the fishing pier extension. It's just about complete. And the second phase now are the flood walls and some of the floodgates as well. I think tomorrow morning, you mentioned there's a testing of one of the floodgates. No water involved, so just open and close. So we got that out to Comcast newsmakers. But again, that's a project that the township has worked to get funding for, and we're about halfway through. Project should be completed in about 2022, and it's a great benefit to the township, again, fully federally funded. A couple other quick items. Committeeman Perry, as he noted with regard to the Community Assistance Network, that ordinance is really an extension of the type of people that we have here in Middletown. And I'm certainly glad to be a part of that. I look forward to implementing the membership for that with Committeeman Perry as well. So a couple meetings ago, I had mentioned that when you do good things in the township, you don't necessarily do them. They're not necessarily in the newspaper. They're not on camera. But I was wrong. Apparently, an episode of What Would You Do, was it on NBC, CBS, I forget, was in Middletown a couple weeks ago, and it was at the Feet First store in Union Square, and the results were astounding. Some of the actors the actor that was going into the store went in the store to buy some shoes, didn't have enough money, and everybody in Middletown reacted the same way. They extended themselves. They didn't know they were on camera. They extended themselves to help the young boy as much as they can, whether it be paying for their shoes, whether it be sticking up for them. And this is all when people don't know that they're being watched. So I thought this was an interesting event that the Township of Middletown scored very high in terms of its ability to look out for people in town and to do the best thing for others before they do it for themselves. So it's just a fantastic event. It's one of those things that, again, you don't see every day. With that said, Middletown helps its own, and I don't know the number of basket forming, you know, that were provided this past week. 2 to 300. So there are 300 baskets that were distributed, and it started on Thursday evening with regard to the sorting, and on Friday and then Saturday morning, and from about 7 to 10 it got finished and then distributed. And this is an organization, Middletown Helps Its Own, and that we take our hats off to help people within the township. And again, it's those type of things that separate Middletown Township from other townships around. So I'm proud to be a part of it. 2 other quick items. We also did attend at Greeley Park in Port Monmouth. We renovated a basketball court, and it was from 100% FEMA funds. Tony, all FEMA funds, correct?
From Sandy Down.
Right, so from Sandy Down. So it's another item that's been done with regard to upgrade the township at no cost to the local taxpayers, and we were proud to open up that park this past Saturday. And the last item, of course, is Thursday is coming up. It's Thanksgiving. We all hope you take a rest from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday because you're not obligated to buy things for anyone. You're required to spend time with your family. You're required to talk to them. So not everybody does it all the time. We're all busy, right? So please, take time, spend time with your family. So from my family to yours, I wish you a great and happy Thanksgiving. So that being said, we're going to open it up to the public for comments. We'd ask that when you come to the microphone, you don't take any longer than 5 minutes. Please state your name and address. And we'd like to reach out to anyone that would like to speak. So, that being said, any public comments, please? Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Jim Connors. I live in Shady Oak, 64 Smoke Tree Terrace.
Good evening.
I'm originally from Jersey City. And the political climate in Jersey City when I was a kid was bad. I went to a candidate's night at the Wim Cross School, I guess it's a few weeks ago. And I was very impressed with the way it was professionally run. It was one of the nicest events I've been to in terms of meeting politicians. So I want to thank you for that. Again, congratulations on your winning the election. I've been here a couple of times supporting Stevenson Park. I thank you for withdrawing the grant application. My question is, what's the follow-up? Are we going to declare Stevenson Park a passive recreation area, or are we going to sit in limbo for God knows how long, wondering what's going to happen to that piece of property?
At this point, since you're correct, the governing body did withdraw the grant application from the county, and there are no plans to do anything with regard to Stevenson Park.
Thank you, if that's the case. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to be heard this evening? I will put on this. Yes, sir.
My name is Merrick Teal. I live at 61 Vincent Court, also in Shady Oaks. We do appreciate, follow up on what the gentleman just said, we do appreciate the decision to withdraw the grant application of the Plainfield plan for Stevenson Park. Can you hear me all right? As you know, our objectives were based on the adverse impact this plan would have. Not working? No, wow. Shall I start over? We appreciate your decision to withdraw the grant application for the Plainfield plan for Stevenson Park. As you know, our objectives were based on the adverse impact this plan would have on all the neighboring properties, as well as the compromised road safety on West Front Street. Your decision to end the grant application eased concerns short-term, but we are interested in a long-term, permanent solution. So we're asking you to commit to placing a conservation easement on Stevenson Park deed prior to the next election. Can you agree to do that?
It's something that can be reviewed, but there's no action by the governing body at this point.
You haven't decided to do that?
No, sir. There's no act. We've said to you that we said to you and Shady and Shadow Lake that the governing body obviously has withdrawn our application, and we have no plans to do anything on Stevenson Park.
But that's not, that's an open thing, essentially. You're not telling us it will never happen.
So here's the issue, right? The issue is you came, you spoke up against a proposal, we acted, we pulled the grant application, but where does the precedent start and end, right? So where does the next park come and say, I no longer want this baseball field here, I want this to be passive recreation. Township committee, pass an easement. Where does the next governing body, how do they in 10 years or 20 years, look and when we just restrict every decision or you start to set precedents, right? So I hear what you're saying, okay, but where does it end? Right? Where does it end to the next park that says, I don't want camping, I don't want I don't want these, if it's a hilly area, I don't want any camping going on here, or I don't want certain activity. I think we set a dangerous precedent. You've gotten the board's commitment not to do anything at Stevenson Park, and we withdrew that grant application and we moved on. But to say when you're going to put a conservation easement, I have concerns that sets a potential precedent for other areas.
Let me respond to that then. I understand what you're telling me. You're saying essentially that any decision you make will have repercussions in the future.
Potentially.
You recognize that that is the fact, but you do that every day. Every decision you make has implications for the future. Regardless of whether you intend them to be good or bad, they do have that. So by putting this particular thing on this particular park, we're not talking about every park in town. We're talking about Stevenson Park. And we're talking about the nature of the two properties that are just adjacent to it and the kind of people who live there. They're all seniors. They're all reliant on that property as far as having a quiet place to live. So it really doesn't impact the rest of the community. If you decide at some future point you want to change another park, that may be happening. But we don't feel that it's asking too much for you to place a conservation easement on this particular park. It seems to be a reasonable solution for us.
long-term ramifications. There's lots of parks around town that people would probably like to see never used for anything. And that may not be realistic for the future. I mean, we don't know what the needs are going to be of the town in 10 or 20 years. You would make it impossible for a future governing body to address potential needs. And if other people who live near other parks that are undeveloped come in and say, put a deed restriction on this one, how could you say no if you've already done it once? So I think it sets a really, really bad precedent. And I don't think you want to be tying the hands of the future governing bodies because they're going to be representing people in the future who may have very, very different needs and very, very different interests. And to do so now, I think, would be foolhardy.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Danielle Reed, Ellsworth Court, Shady, Shadow Lake Village. I've been talking to a lot of Shady Oaks people. But there are about 2,000 adults living in Shady Oaks and Shadow Lake Village, and we are concerned. It's not just I don't think you have to worry about precedent for the future. I've worked on enough governmental issues that if you set the facts up and the background of it, it could be unique to Stevenson Park. And that includes the traffic, the noise, the light, the pollution, the water concerns because it's near creeks, and the possibility of having 350 parking spaces makes a mess. I also see, I'm glad that the concept plan was withdrawn, but I'm concerned about it for the future. And I'm also concerned about injuries and the possibility of liabilities. Just yesterday on TV, we saw about sports injuries that head concussions can actually cause ALS. And I wouldn't like to see our taxes raised or tax rates or tax assessments going up. And I think the people who vote for such sport fields should consider the fact that if there were liabilities, there could be litigation. And even if someone was named as a defendant and got off with no liability, there's still a possibility of being named as defendants, especially the people whose names are on the bridge.
That is not true, ma'am. I have no liability for kids playing sports. My name on Stevenson Park's bridge. No liability.
There might be no liability, but having worked for...
Would you like to hear our attorney? Are you an attorney? Our attorney can tell you, but if you'd like, you can.
Try not to be a jerk.
Oh, that's good. I feel pretty confident of my mind.
So all towns should close all their parks because of potential liability?
No, but increasing the park...
That's kind of what you're saying.
Increasing...
Shouldn't have any under that project.
Well, you're increasing, what I'm saying is you're increasing the liability, yes.
I don't agree with that.
Ma'am, is there a suggestion that you'd like to make to this governing body?
The easement that was previously discussed, I think
No,
that's a good idea.
I-
It's carefully worded. I'd be glad to work with other attorneys working on getting the easement properly drafted so it's narrow and applies specifically in one place.
Thank you. So that's the second version that we've heard with regard to the fact that this governing body has withdrawn our application for any development at Stevenson Park. And I got to tell you, we've gone to a number of hearings at this point, and myself and my colleagues on the committee, and we listened, we heard you, we agree with you. We think it was not the right location for multiple reasons, whether that be the development of the field, whether it be noise, whether it be potential traffic. We get it. We heard you. But I got to tell you, I think at this point, I'm a little dismayed to start hearing that it's not enough and you want more. And I got to tell you, as the mayor, wait. Let me speak. I'll let you speak. So I'm a little dismayed at the fact that this entire governing body has said to you, we're withdrawing our application. We're not doing anything. We've heard you. We're not doing anything at Stevenson Park. So there's nothing that this governing body sitting up here is going to do with regard to any development of any fields or anything at Stevenson Park. And you're kind of coming back to us saying, you know what, guys, I don't really trust you. I want you to do more. And I'm a little, I'm a little troubled by that. So this governing body has committed to you that we're not doing anything there. So, you know, when you tell us that you want more, and it's not going to set a precedent, as the deputy mayor mentioned, and it is a concern of ours, that's going to set the precedent. Frankly, comments with regard to legal avenues that a conservation easement is going to mitigate it is really frankly misleading, and it's circuitous. And I gotta tell you, it doesn't really sit well with me. So look, we changed our position, listening to what the folks said, and we're happy to do it, absolutely happy to do it. Because we want to be able to represent you to the best of our ability. When you come back and say, look, we want more, it's not enough, I don't know what to tell you. This, I'll speak for myself, but I can't support any kind of conservation easement with regard to that property.
I just want to add that, dealing with this process, I did go back and look at some other cases where the township developed parks. In the 1980s, the township applied for a grant to build 2 baseball fields at Croydon Hall, which are there now. When they applied for those, there were a lot of objections from the neighborhood, and they were based upon noise, sound, noise, lights, and traffic. Exactly the same things. And so just because people always think that where they live has the worst traffic, but most parks are in neighborhoods that all think they have traffic issues, and they all do have some legitimate traffic issues. So whenever you try to develop fields on any park, we've done it 3 times prior to this, and the same issues have been raised every time with every park: noise, light, and traffic, every single time. So there's nothing unique or special about Stevenson that makes it different than any other park in town that people who live near it would like to see it stay as is. So it's not true that there's anything unique or special here that we could point to say this is why we should put a conservation easement on this park. There are dozens of them around town, and those neighbors who live near those would say exactly the same thing: do it for my park next. And it just doesn't make any sense. It's poor planning for the future. It really is inappropriate for governing bodies to bind the hands of future elected officials, whoever they may be.
Anyone else wishing to be heard this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Katie Andrews, 11 Broadway Drive. So my original intention was to come up here and talk to you about some alternate plans for Stevenson Park, to ways that we can enhance the use of the park and to still keep it passive. Some good ideas that would be, leading us towards healthy communities here in Middletown. But I feel I have to respond. Okay, so you ask us to trust you, but then you say, look, we've had this situation and, we've gone ahead, we didn't listen to the residents.
No, we didn't build
Basically what we heard.
We didn't build the fields in those 3 spots.
You just said that we did build fields over at Croydon Hall.
Right, but then there were 3 other locations where
Okay.
park improvement plans were proposed.
And those fields were built in 1980.
Okay. So I think that what does make Stevenson Park unique is that I don't really believe the other locations were located between 2 senior complexes. And I have to say to you, I don't know what world the idea of placing 9 soccer fields directly on a parcel of land adjacent to 2 senior citizens complexes ever made sense.
It's off the table, man. We
It's off the
discussed that.
table, but I think the people in this room who are speaking tonight have concerns that it's off the table now, but not forever.
And you know what, ma'am? Those people, right, will have the opportunity in whether it's ever, if it ever comes up again, whether it's in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or 50 years, to come before the governing body of that time and say, you know what? This was discussed once before, and it shouldn't be here. And you know what? There's an election coming up, and if you go that way, we're going to vote against you, okay? Because don't for one second think that any one of us don't believe this was a major political issue that the neighborhoods made, and rightfully so, okay? Because it was an issue that was important to them, okay? So we took it off the table, and the people at that time will have the same opportunity that the people in this room had over the last 3 months. And that's the way democracy works, isn't it?
Well, it is, but
Okay.
sometimes also put things in place that reassure residents.
To bind a future governing body's hands. That's not my philosophy.
You do other things that bind.
Okay. Like, name one.
Okay, so you make plans, you pass your resolution that passes something on to the next, to the planning board, okay? I mean, you guys.
Those things have law that specifically deals with those sorts of things. They have to be done that way. Those are specifically covered by law. There's no law that covers building fields, building parks. Those are done based upon the needs of the community, right? Or because if that was the philosophy, we would have no fields, right? I mean,
That's not what anybody wants.
But you just don't want them near you.
No.
That's actually the truth.
Okay, no, well, it's what I don't want, okay, just so.
Because do you know which other park would you suggest?
Well, I think there are parks that are in deteriorating shape
Well,
that have skateboards
No,
that
I
are.
talk about undeveloped parks where you can build new things. Suggest a couple.
Well, why do they have to be undeveloped parks? If you have something that's in bad shape, why couldn't we have something that gets redeveloped?
What happens if there's demand in the future for more fields? How do you deal with that?
I'm not quite sure.
Exactly.
I'm not quite sure.
Exactly, you're not sure because
However, I
you
do
don't
know
have an
this
answer for
park
it.
is there and it's undeveloped, and I really feel that we have lots of opportunities to keep it passive.
But that might not be the case 20 years from now. And why should we make that impossible
Well, we
in the
do know
future?
that there are people sitting up here, yourself included, who want that big sports complex in
Oh,
Middletown.
come on.
And it's being turned down in 3 other areas. Maybe the people of Middletown just don't really want a big sports complex.
I don't know, maybe the people of Middletown voted for the people who wanted to help the athletes too.
You know, this is not about not wanting to help athletes. We all want to help and protect our children.
That's not what you just said.
I raised children here, I had
Not what
athletes.
you just said, ma'am.
Don't be a jerk.
And I think everybody in this room understands that if we can have both, we can have nice
And
things of
we
recreation
pulled the grant ordinance.
the Board of Education.
And we've done that. We had a shared
So
service
you don't have a
committee.
signed agreement.
Is there anyone else from the public wish to be heard this evening? Sir, in the back, please.
Good evening. My name is Jim Bird. I'm from Titusville, New Jersey in Mercer County. And I wanted to come to talk to you a little bit about some of the situations that you're confronted with here with your park to some degree. Because yes, there can be changes every time there's a new election that comes down. And this is very similar to what I'm talking about with affordable housing in New Jersey. In New Jersey, the law came into existence in 1975 at Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And I lived probably about 15 minutes from that operation, right after college. At that time, it was the affordable housing, 1975, was the Mount Laurel situation there. And at that time, they had set up, through an individual in Princeton, New Jersey, basically establishment on a square mile basis for affordable housing. The treasurer of our organization, Citizens Improving Affordable Housing, is with the Army in North Jersey, and he does the extensive work with paperwork for the Army. One day, things were quiet, and he basically took all 6 men of his organization with each with a laptop, and they tried to make this equation work, and it didn't. So that's one of the situations that you have here.
Each with a laptop in 1975.
No, they did it last year. Thank you. So basically what it comes down to is what they came up with is not apropos. The other situation is they've done such things as come up with a builder's remedy. And with a builder's remedy, that comes about if a municipality does not come through with putting up affordable housing units, these developers can come to the judge and make a statement that this hasn't been done. We own property and we want to be able to put in affordable housing. But the other part of it is they do it on an 80-20 basis. 20% possibly is affordable housing, and that can be a one-bedroom apartment or condominium. Whereas they take 80% and they put in market value homes and condos. When they walk away, what happened to Hopewell Township is we are an agrarian society. I'm 6 generations there. And what happened was they came to the judge and said, you know, Hopewell Township didn't take care of this. Once again, Hopewell Township was all farms. Hopewell Township did not have sewer. Hopewell Township did not have water. What they got was a go-ahead. They got water from Trenton Water Works. They got sewer from Ewing Lawrence Sewer Authority. They put 1,300 units, which were single-family homes and condos, in Brandon Farms. Out of that, just about 130 of these units were affordable housing, which were as small as a one-bedroom condominium. Now, what's happening with Hopewell Township is it had to go to court again, as everybody else is at this time, and the judge said Hopewell Township will do 1,000 affordable housing units. Well, we did probably 300 already, but in essence, they were saying 1,000. That meant that you take Brandon Farms, which was 1,300 units, multiply that by 3.5, and that's the type of area that you're putting in Hopewell Township in a confined area in the southern tier of Hopewell Township. What we're saying is this: we look for a modification of this law, and what we do is we call for the elected officials in Trenton. These were the people that you and I and these people out here send into Trenton to represent, supposedly represent us. However, they will not touch this with a 10-foot pole. And I'll be very candid with you, because 2.5, almost 3 years ago, I started working on this. It continues to be sidestepped by everyone in Trenton, New Jersey. And that includes the governor and the deputy governor. Now,
Sir, I'm going to ask you just to wrap up.
Thank you, I will. I have had some of the people here give me your name and your email address, and I ask you to fill this out before you leave. I will send you the information via email. In that email, you will get a condensed information about affordable housing from 1975 until today, along with it, information on the bills that are being stalled in Trenton. We will also give you the addresses and email addresses for all of the elected officials in Trenton that we ask you to fill out. We will also give you a letter, if you would like to use that, or your own letter, and send it into Trenton. I ask you also, go to number 3, hit that button, put in your name, your email address, and the districts that you were sending this information to. So at that point, I can look at it, and when I go to Trenton, I know who to talk to. And last but not least, take this letter that I send to you and forward it on to everyone, and I emphasize everyone in New Jersey that's confronted with affordable housing. Thank you very much, and I'll have this information back here for you to sign before you leave. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Deputy.
I'd love to speak to you after the meeting, sir. I don't know.
I'll be out here.
Okay, I don't know how much historical background you have on Middletown Township and.
I
I was mayor of Hopewell Township.
Okay, well, Middletown,
I was mayor of Hopewell Township. I'll talk to you all the time.
Listen, I'm on board with you, I think.
Then sign it when you come out. Thank
Not only
you.
sign it, I think we've done a lot more than that as a governing body.
I can tell before.
I doubt it.
I don't think so.
A little confused, but,
All right, anyone else wish to be heard this evening?
I don't know.
Sir in the back, please. Give your name and address, please, sir.
5th Grand 39 Prevent DNR.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave you all you guys alone. This guy. Thanks. I'm going to step back. Okay, we got 2 issues going on in DNR right now. One of the issues is down by the marina. You're doing that bulkhead along Burlington Avenue.
Yep.
Okay. And there was discussion quite a few years ago when he caved in, right? And it was a battle between the state and the town. The town said they own it. The state said the town owned it. The town said the state owned it. Okay? I don't know who took care of the problem, but the problem was solved. Right? So now that they ripped that up, they busted that pipe all up.
Right.
Okay? And I'm just making you aware of the problem, because then they say, well, hey, it wasn't ours, and just pave right back over the top of it.
No, yeah, I'm aware of that project, and we've talked to the contractor and to the design engineer for that
Okay.
project.
Now, is there other, can we have a flapper valve put on the end of that? That would alleviate some of that pressure from the high tide. I mean, Burlington Avenue, we know Burlington and Benton Avenue is a flood zone, we know that. There's no way out of that, okay? But I was thinking maybe if we could put a flapper valve on the one on Benton, or a flapper valve on Benton and the one on Burlington, it would ease some of the flooding back there.
There is one in that structure, there's a flapper valve in that structure on Burlington Avenue at Benton.
There's one
There's
inside,
one in the structure, yeah.
so that's a check valve that you got in here.
Well,
Gotta be a
it's
check
not the
valve.
flapper valve. We'll go out and look at it if you want to, I'll meet you out and look at it.
Well, you know we're gonna, there's number one.
Sounds like a good field trip to me.
Okay. Number 2, the rain that we've been having, and Leonardville Road, right down there by, okay, is that Norris? By the creek, that's been flooded now, okay? Also, I noticed in the park by me, the water is coming up a lot more higher.
That concrete.
What?
Yeah, concrete.
Is it in the park behind me?
Just making sure.
Okay, Concord, sir. I have to take a walk back there, and we got a lot of trees down that's actually blocking the flow in here. At one time, we had a clean community service. Do we still have that?
We do, you're talking about community service workers?
It was all clean community.
Right.
It wasn't the ones that,
Not community service, talking about employees.
yeah, employees.
We have clean community employees.
Because I remember when Ben Kersey was running that,
Mhm.
they took that creek and they cleaned that whole creek out. And we never had a problem before. Because that's coming down from, it's coming down from Earl, that's one. And then the other one, when you come up towards Highland, where that last house in Highland that they just built up,
Yep.
there's another one that's coming from Beacon Hill.
Mhm.
And that's all, trees are just down in there and it just stopped everything. You know, so, I don't know.
I'll get the specific locations you're talking about, we'll look at that as well, and we'll try to get those cleaned out. That's a problem all across town, every stream we have, that runs from the high part of town down to the bay or to the river, they're all getting clogged up, we're all getting, clogged with trees and silt.
I mean, I've seen this for Concord Park, I mean, for 47 years that I've lived there. That's the worst I've seen it.
We are gonna look
And
into
it's been up there.
doing rural projects of clearing out streams in-house with DPW, in conjunction with the Long County Mosquito Commission and the county highway department as well. We are looking into that, but I'd like to see the specific areas you're talking about, though.
Yeah, because it's coming right from Leonardville Road, always past academy and back underneath
And
there.
there were also problems with the pipes under Highway 36 that are causing the backups.
That's been taken care of.
I don't know about it.
Yeah, I'll tell you that right now. That's been taken care of. That's been flooding out for 20 years. The state's been going in there with a vacuum truck, vacuuming out, okay? Last year, the state hired an outside contractor with suck trucks. They opened up every manhole that they could find in that area. Flood it out. There's no flood there. You know, that's the state work. But that problem was solved by them. By the DOT, they were over here, but they had these guys out. But if we can get together, fine. Well, I know all the time.
Maybe next meeting we'll,
Sure?
yep,
Okay.
I'll be here.
You got my
Got your number.
Yeah, I got you, I'll trigger that.
I got it.
I want to say goodbye. Thanksgiving.
Thanks. 3 years.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to be heard this evening? Sir?
Hi, my name is John Spinelli, 91 Burlington Avenue. Before I talk, I'd like to congratulate the committee men and women that have won their re-election. So what I want to talk about is, as the new administration goes forward, I want to talk more about an open space proposal. I'm not saying I have a clear idea, but I just want to have more dialogue on more practical ways the town could acquire more open space. I'm not saying we should raise taxes, but I'm saying maybe we should start like a Middletown Conservation Society, making it private organization that looks at fundraising, negotiation with more farmland to prevent more larger commercial housing projects. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that idea also.
You're speaking of the open space fund, and I would ask the deputy mayor or the administrator to comment on that with regard to its current status.
Well, the township does collect funds for open space, and in fact, bought quite a bit of land in prior years with it. In fact, so much that there's none really left until we start getting some more reimbursement from the state Green Acres program, which should actually start happening very soon. And there is an organization called the Monmouth Conservation Foundation who we work with regularly, and we've done acquisition projects with them in multiple locations throughout the township. They were founded by a Middletown resident, so they are very focused on Middletown Township, so we do work with them. If somebody else wants to form, we can't form a nonprofit ourselves, we're not allowed to, but residents, if they want to form a nonprofit, certainly could, we can work with you. But we do work with Mountain Conservation, and they fulfill that need pretty well. You might want to talk to them about maybe, joining with them or meeting with them and see what some of their priorities are. But we do that, and, we certainly will be looking to buy some more land in the future.
Yeah, I emailed Mr. Kessing, and he said he was also talking about that. But I was wondering, so do you think that would be a good idea if the citizens created a nonprofit?
Yeah, yes. The hard part of it is that it's more than just creating a nonprofit. You have to be able to fundraise. The Monmouth Conservation Foundation does a lot of fundraising. Unfortunately, land almost always costs money.
Yes.
And so you have to be able to raise funds to buy the land. But if someone wanted to create a nonprofit like that, we'd be happy to work with them. We have for many years.
Oh yeah, but I know what you're trying to say, but so the Monmouth Conservation Society, even though it is very beneficial to Middletown, the focus on that is mostly county.
No, I don't think that's true at all. The focus on that is many municipalities throughout the county. They bought properties or helped buy properties in probably most of the municipalities in Monmouth County.
Tony, I think what would be helpful is, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have an open space committee. Okay, so, which generally dovetailed with the Open Space Trust Fund and making recommendations and then potentially partnering with Monmouth Conservation or any other organization. The Baykeeper is another one that comes to mind that we've partnered with in the past. I think I personally, I won't speak for my committee members, I would support a citizens group that would be Middletown Conservation and Monmouth Conservation. I think it's a wonderful idea. To the administrator's point, what it can't be is an advisory committee, right? So it would have to actually be a true non-for-profit that we're not allowed to start, but we can help support and work with. In so much that if there was fundraising and there was the ability for that group to raise funds and say, hey, Township, how do we partner on potentially acquiring a parcel of property? I think that's a great idea. The challenge has been for us, as the administrator said, is before my time, I make a joke about this, and it's not really that funny, that I've been on this committee for 10 years. I don't think I've ever bought a piece of property in 10 years, and that's because the committee before me was so aggressive in preserving open space, but yet we never really got all the reimbursements from Green Acres. So right now, we're just at the precipice of think of that happening, as the administrator said. So we will have that ability, but if that were to happen, I think we'd be able to work together.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard this evening? Sir?
Can you hear me all right?
Sure.
My name is Will Cariello. I live at 41 Dow Ave. Across the street from, are you familiar with Inwell Farms, now Inwell Estates? Once they bulldozed that, what was it, last summer? We saw coyote in my neighborhood. We found 2 dead fawn in my neighborhood. We saw a decrease in the number of viceroy butterfly, swallowtail butterfly, monarch butterflies, robins, sparrows, you name it. I think it's only fair that we have a conservation easement on Stevenson Track, being that they're both part of the same watershed into the noise pollution, light pollution, traffic, all those have been brought up, and that's not really what a conservation easement is for. Really, I want a conservation easement to conserve this land for the wildlife, to have an actual habitat, so that we don't put them literally out on the street. That's that.
Thank you very much. Wishing to be heard this evening? Ma'am?
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, I had a couple of questions about the town hall project. In the recent newspaper article in Two River Times, and Mr. Mercantante, I think, mentioned that you're going to start building it in a few months. Is that true?
Well, we're hoping to start in the springtime, yeah. Really, hopefully.
Is there some kind of site plan, traffic plan, anything going on with that that the public can see? I mean, I live 8 houses away, I haven't seen anything on this project when I read this article and saw that.
There'll be a presentation, there will be, it's not been finalized, that's why it's not available. There'll be a presentation to the planning board, probably January or so, with all the plans and details like that. So there will be, but they're not finalized yet.
Okay, so, but you think, as it said, like early winter, you were going to start, that seemed awfully
Early
soon.
spring, it's springtime, I think.
Okay, so it still has to go through a planning board process?
It doesn't have to go through a formal process like a private development would, but there's a requirement that we make presentations to the planning board as to what the township's proposing to build, just like we would if we were building on another property. You have to present it to the planning board just for advice.
Okay, the public will be notified.
The public will not be notified, it'll be advertised, and that'll be on the agenda. But if you stay in touch with me, I'll make sure you know
Yeah, I
exactly.
mean, we're very close, I would like to know. You had mentioned earlier, somebody asked a question about, is there going to be a traffic study for this? I know there's going to be 2 pad sites according to this, so there's more traffic than there is here now. And then, there's other issues with Timber Road, Kings Highway. I wasn't sure at Spruce Drive if you were planning anything new traffic-wise and when that was going to be discussed.
Well, as you know, there was a traffic study at the Township Commission relative to the Village 35 project. We asked the consultant to incorporate the plans for the municipal complex in their analysis. That traffic study is still being reviewed. It's not been finalized yet. We're trying to set up a meeting with the DOT, with the proposed developer, to go over some of the traffic issues and recommendations that they're making. So once that happens, then that report will be made public, probably around the same time we go to the planning board, which is typically when traffic studies are released.
So that one traffic study will be used for this project and the other project? And when are you saying that's going to be made available, for this project or for the other project? Sorry, I wasn't that confused with that.
Well, so the traffic study was done primarily for the Route 35, for the Village 35 development. However, we asked them to look into the fact that there was also going to be proposed redevelopment of the Township complex, and so they've taken that into consideration, some of their suggestions that are being made in the traffic study. But we have to meet with the DOT to get their input on it first. The developer of the Village 35 project has had multiple meetings with the DOT over the past few years. We have not had a chance to do that with regards to the municipal complex. That's hopefully coming up very soon.
So do you think when the planning board meetings for the town hall project come up, this will be something to be discussed as well in terms of the traffic there?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening? Ma'am?
Mary Clifton, 26 Hawthorne Circle. I have a few questions. First one is the introduction of proposed ordinance number 10, 2018 regarding Half Mile Road. You didn't ask for public comment on it. What is it about? Could you describe it to me?
There'll be public comment at the next meeting, because it takes two hearings. So the introduction, you don't have public comment, but the adoption hearing tonight, you do have public comment.
I have no idea what comment on those things about.
Okay, so it will be published now that it's been introduced, but it's a redevelopment investigation that was done for an area of Half Mile Road where the office, one of those office buildings that are empty right down the street from you, a redevelopment investigation was done on a property there, and there's a proposal to determine if it's an area in need of rehabilitation. And we are working with a potential developer to move forward with that
Because
project.
those buildings are empty.
One of them is.
And there's no one's allowed to park there. And
Right.
instead, they were parking all up and down that
Right.
street, which was dangerous because you could barely fit a car two ways.
Well, again, those.
But now they're gone because I think
There's a parking restriction there, yes.
now they're parking on Park Street, so.
Well, that may be the next parking restriction.
Because I noticed, I said, oh, well, they were all over the street. And that's when I realized they weren't on the other street.
You know, we've had issues with the New Jersey Transit and Academy don't have enough spaces for them at the lot at exit 109. There are spaces, we've tried to notify people, there are spaces available at the art center. There are still empty spaces there on most days, so that is an option for them. PNC.
That's what I hear people were forced to do.
Right. Which is free.
Just a suggestion, whenever you publish these ordinances, especially when they're introduced, is there any way to put a little summary on there so that when people come, they can participate more in their government?
Because you don't participate, the way the law is set up, you don't participate in this, but this introduces it. Now that it's been introduced, it will be published, and that's when people get a chance to read it, and there'll be a public hearing scheduled at the next
And
meeting.
where do they go to it online?
And then we publish it in the newspaper as well.
Just taking the comments of some of the young gentlemen that spoke before about setting up a nonprofit to purchase more open space. I guess I didn't realize we weren't doing that anymore. I remember years ago that we were very actively purchasing open space.
Well, you may or may not know, the way the process works is that when towns buy open space, they negotiate a price, they do an appraisal to determine the value of the property, and then the town is entitled to get 50% of the cost reimbursed by the state Green Acres program. The problem is that the town has to front the money. The town has to pay the whole 100% up, and then there's a process to get reimbursed. And for several years, the state Green Acres program wasn't able to fully reimburse towns. So they still literally owe us a couple of $1 million, which we're still in the process of trying to get back from them. So what happened is the fund was depleted because we laid out all the money and weren't getting it back in time. So
Right.
that's why it slowed down.
Why you're not interested right now in trying to purchase more
We
real
just
estate.
don't have.
It's not that we're not interested,
Right.
but we don't have the ability.
You don't have the ability, but you do have the ability to save open space. And another young gentleman just spoke about, the gentleman who lives across from the Long Barns, because he's absolutely right. There's no place for the wildlife to go. I mean, we regularly look at dead carcasses of deer along West Front Street.
And every other street in town.
Right, and it would be such a shame to take away one spot in open space. I mean, I just want to share with you some of my experiences in trying to save Stevenson Park over the last 2 weeks. I did walk, I did knock on doors. I walked to every single resident I could near West Front Street. I had an incredible amount of support. I never had such support knocking on a stranger's door. And I just want to share with you what they told me. They said, there's too much development here. You took away all the open space. The Hidden Well Farms is not very popular. And it's not that big, but it's not very popular.
It's also not our property.
I know. The golf course, that went. The Avaya development. And that part of Middletown is experiencing incredible density. And it's obviously going to affect our schools. It's going to cost us more money. So, I mean, again, I implore you, you have this opportunity to save this one piece of property, this open space. What commitment can you give us other than your word that you will not develop this?
Well, I think with regard to Stevenson Park, again, this committee has given you our word that we're not doing anything at Stevenson Park. With regard to the other properties that you named, those are properties, so we do own Stevenson Park, but the other properties, at variance to what you discussed, are properties that we don't own.
I understand that.
And-
But the public is still feeling
And
the
with little-
density and the traffic.
And with little fanfare, okay, that this committee didn't make such a really big deal about, we have this little parcel, or very large parcel of property right in that neighborhood called Chris's Marina, okay, in which, when the owner, I believe, passed away, the marina owner, or the owners of the property, could have developed many riverfront condos. But instead, myself, acting as mayor or deputy mayor at the time, and other members of this committee, worked with the county to get the county to purchase that property to stop, because we didn't have any open space trust money, as Mr. Mercatante said, but we stopped a major development in that area. So while we don't, thank you, but so while we don't always have the ability to do that on every property, we did pick the one that would have been by far the most impactful to that neighborhood.
And one other thing you have to keep in mind, we recently were negotiating with someone to buy a decent-sized piece of property that I think a lot of people would like to see preserved. But sometimes the owner just does not want to sell it to you. The way they express themselves as not wanting to sell it to you is they ask for an exorbitant price. We can only pay a fair market value for the property. We're not going to be robbed. So we offered a very fair price for the property. The property owner would not sell it. That we can't make somebody sell a piece of land.
Obviously not.
And so, it doesn't always work.
Right. But again, you have the ability to preserve this property. Well, you're telling us you're not going to.
It's preserved. It's a park. So it was bought with Green Acres money. It's already preserved. It can't be developed for anything but recreation.
Right, but we're talking about passive recreation. It's very different from I'm talking about passive recreation. It's very different from active recreation that your plan has.
And all I'm saying is that every park in town had nothing on it to begin with. Right? And there came a need in the community at some point to use it for something. And there's no way to guarantee that that won't come about again in the future. It would be, to me, irresponsible to do that and to tie up the property and make it unusable for any other use than it currently is now, forever and ever. That just makes no sense.
I think what Kate was going to say, of course, there are many things that you can do, many ways you can work with each make that, to make other uses for Stevenson Park. But the one thing that we can buy, because it's just totally appropriate, as we've said over and over again,
And we put,
active recreation,
and we put-
large amounts of traffic.
So I think that, we answered that question a number of times.
I know,
The-
you're fine here and everything.
No,
But
I
you're
didn't-
terrified
Yeah.
that you're going to change your mind.
I didn't say that. What I said was.
It requires three of us to do that, so you know, three people up here have to change that.
you right now have 5.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Leo.
Leo, you're letting them all. All your neighbors are leaving you, Leo.
In fact, I love them when they leave. David Stoffley, 121 Cranberry Court, Shady Oaks. I have the Director of Recreation in Township. 2 years of documents for permits to use soccer fields, 216, 17, 217, 218. I probably read not every word on it, but I looked at every page and got some ideas. The general idea is that there's a professional traveling team that's behind the soccer field. I've been in communication with the Director of Parks, and I've been provided information objectively. I like the way she handles herself. She's forthright, doesn't seem to withhold anything, and so you get some information. The information I got was, I'm trying to track, she actually used the phrase for profit. It's a traveling soccer team operated and managed by professionals, whatever that means, and she used the phrase for profit. And that's when she drew back, and I saw her later, matter of fact, when I picked this up at the window down at the conference room. I met the Director of Recreation, not Parks.
Let me maybe clear that up for you. We don't have any professional soccer teams here, but what she was probably referring to, we have different players.
I would kind of like to finish before,
Okay.
otherwise I'd be at 5 minutes and I can't talk anymore. So what, you got all the buzzwords that I got, okay, I didn't make them up. It seems to me you can have the 20% or 50%, 60%.
20% outside of
ABC.
Middletown.
You can have shared services with the county. They have a lot of open space. And maybe you ought to be thinking of that. I don't want to get into that, but just sow the seed and see if it'll bloom where the word landed. But my point is that there is a profit. It is not in the fees they charge. It's in the registration that they get the money, and I heard no numbers, but I've been told it's big numbers. And so they're professional. Now, if they put it in a trust fund, then I don't know if they're really profiting salary-wise or whatnot. I have no idea, but we know the Little League football, there was big-time embezzlement, and as a matter of fact, in interscholastic sports in New Jersey, there's big-time embezzlement going on. So, let me move on to, I put across 2 ideas. The last one is, there was a tip between Brian Nelson and James Andrew about the state of the legal conveyance, transfer of the property to the government. Some people think he bought it. I have an understanding you didn't buy anything.
Right.
What property is it from?
The Stevenson Park.
Yes, the township purchased it, yes. The township purchased it with New Jersey State Green Acres Program.
And how much was it?
I don't remember right now.
So it wasn't a charitable donation?
No.
No.
So
It was bought for fair market value at the time.
about 160 acres of land and the 85 acres of water, basically the swamp.
50 years ago. The town didn't buy the lake, the town only bought the land, Stevenson Park, the lake was separate.
Was that donated?
It wasn't donated, it's not owned by anyone.
Who owned it? I understand that private properties are.
There are 4 properties whose property lines go to the center of the lake, the rest of it is unknown.
Right. So, as regards the surrender of the property, if it was at all conditional and it had limiting terms, such as passive recreation.
It did not.
When James Andrews spoke here, Brian Nelson responded, did you find in the deed or the conveyance document, whatever it was used, the phrase passive recreation? Well, first of all, I did a whole study on Tinton Falls and found out every single piece of property in open space that had tax deductions, right? Especially passive recreation.
Leo, can I ask you to just take a minute to wrap it up, please?
I would ask you to consider that I've been waiting here for a long time, and you've given some other people the opportunity to talk for 5 minutes. I just said this in my last idea. I don't have a script, I'm not going to read it, and talk out of, like a human being out of my recall, please. My father used to use the phrase when he talked to a godfather of mine. They would talk about federal housing stuff, and my father used to use the phrase, or words to that effect. So, a document that's legal and conveying through sale or donation or both, if it fails to use the phrase passive recreation, it does not mean there are words to that effect that clearly implies that, and any judge, and I don't think there's any judge here, and I'm not, can rule on that legally. So I would like to end with just an example out of 4 lines of poetry. I may read it, and I'll answer my question. What is the, you may answer it yourself. This is by George Manley Hopkins. He was a Jesuit seminarian. He was traveling from Wales with a fellow.
Read it.
Quickly, please.
What would the world be once bereft of wet and wildness? Let them be left. Oh, let them be left. Wilderness and wet. Long live the weeds and the wilderness yet. Did anyone hear anything that sound like passive recreation? But this is, in its implicit inner being, the interiority of this, it means absolute passive recreation. Absolute passive recreation.
Thank you.
I had to teach lit for 37 years, so I hope I entertain you somewhat.
I have a great deal of respect for you, as you know. I think you make salient points, but the one thing that I'm just not going to sit up here and hear you say about the children is that they are professional athletes, okay, because they play travel sports. That's just wrong.
I did not say that.
You say they're run by professional teams. So, no, you're not getting back on now, I gave you your time.
I did not say that.
You said,
I was talking about the adults only.
we do not have an adult, we do not have an adult travel league that dictates and runs the fields, Leo. It just doesn't happen.
I think what I was trying to explain before was that, I think what he was hearing, we have 3 different levels of fee schedule, and for-profit organizations pay a higher fee than the regular youth recreation leagues. And municipal use or school use, they pay nothing. So that's what I think he was referring to, that, you know, there are camps, for example, who charge a lot of money for kids to go to the camps. Yeah, they pay a higher fee to use our fields than the typical leagues do.
Anyone else wishing to be heard this evening? Ma'am.
I am Marguerite Stalker. I live at 58 Whitney Drive in River Plaza. I really appreciated, as the first gentleman said who spoke tonight, about the candidates night. The questions were great. One thing that came up that night was about someone asked about our walking assessment for the Improv area. I would really like to see the township move on that. Mayor Sanbrino and I have worked on this for River Plaza. I'm really proud. I think great things are going to come from this. I'm really hoping we hear something positive in January or February that our sidewalk along Hubbard Avenue will be completed, and working with the county to do a couple other things too, so that that is incredibly safe for our students. And beside that, I mean, we all live in Middletown. You know, we're all proud of where we live. You know, I work hard to make my little area of River Plaza awesome. I'm really happy about what's happened at Chris's, and Chris actually, prior to passing away, had a lot to do with what's happened. But I appreciate the Monmouth County Conservation Foundation for stepping up along with the freeholders to, you know, make that work for us. And finally, of course, I would love to see Stevenson Park become a more permanent solution to, you know, open space, and that we cover that so that it never becomes something other than passive recreation. And that, I'm gonna be possessive. I'm gonna say that makes my community of River Plaza and Lynn Robbins, you know, a really special place in Middletown. And I appreciate you listening to us, and I hope you do act on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else from the public this evening? Sir?
My name is Don Adler.
Oh, yeah, wait to get the microphone, sir, please. Thank you.
My name is Don Adler. I live on O'Neill Street in Leonardo. I'm somewhat new to the neighborhood. I've lived here about 2 years now. Somewhat new to the process and procedures of this governing body. My question, or actually very simple, and that is with regard to one of the matters that we discussed here earlier this evening about the municipal complex. How is the municipal, I'm concerned about my property, as I'm sure everyone else here in the room and you are as well. So my question about the municipal complex is how is it being funded? Where is the money coming from? What analysis, if any, have you done with regard to the impact that the source of funding or funding will have on our property? Is there a municipal bond that's going to get floated? How do we pay for that? So that's my first question.
So, with regard to the RDA or the redeveloper agreement, those specifics would be contained in there, and that has not been, it's still under discussion with the administration and the governing body and the redeveloper. So we don't have those numbers or those conclusions as of yet, but I can tell you a couple things. Number one, the governing body's decision to proceed in terms of a delivery process as a redevelopment area, the area needed redevelopment rather, permits the township, has permitted the township to go out and put an RFP for redeveloper. Okay? Has allowed us, as you've seen this evening, to generate a zoning overlay or an amendment to our zoning, which has added some pad sites to the site. What's important about the redevelopment process is that it will permit this municipality not to bond for dollars to develop the municipal building, but to do a couple things. To look at a lease buyback scenario with a reverter, which means that the redeveloper would develop the site, we would lease it from the redeveloper, and more importantly, the two pad sites on the property would provide new revenue offsets, and whether that be in terms of lease annuities or in terms of cash for revenue offsets against the lease payments, but not new debt. Okay? So I can tell you that those specifics are still being discussed. We plan to potentially introduce it as early as the 3rd in December, but they're still under discussion with the administration, with the redeveloper, and the governing body.
So all of this will be posted, disclosed,
Absolutely.
open for comment.
Yes, sir.
Before ground is broken.
Yes, sir.
And decisions are made on how.
Yes, sir.
Correct. So my second question also has to do with and that is the Citizens 35. And my understanding is that approval has to be given for the developer to build 350 residential units or more, up to 400, I think. And I'm just wondering what the impact will be on town services, particularly with regard to schools. You can figure about 1.3 to 1.5 children in each unit. So that means a lot of education costs, and so I have a question about as the governing body and or with the commission of professionals.
So I'll
Gradual analysis.
I'm sorry. So I'll start the answer though, and let the administrator complete that answer. With regard to the residential development, the schools would certainly receive their 65% of that development. With regard to the impact on the schools, obviously the district will need to do a demographic analysis with regard to that and the impact on the schools. A demographic analysis. Demographic analysis, well, the schools will do a demographic analysis because they need to make certain that they have adequate capacity in the buildings to handle current and projected growth. But to complete that answer, I'm going to ask our administrator to comment, please.
Yeah, so a few things. So when the entire designation is created, and the Village 35 project isn't just about 350 housing units, there's also a retail component to that. Okay, so there's more to it, paying taxes than just the residential portion. Secondly, your assumption about the number of school children is way, way, way off. Middletown routinely monitors our multifamily housing developments in town, and we analyze, fortunately for us, I guess, is that all of those developments in town are in busing districts for the school district. So therefore, we literally know how many school children are generated by each development, and it's nowhere near one per unit. It's closer to 1 for every 5 units, maybe 6 units. So the reality is the number of school children are much, much lower than single-family housing when it comes to townhouse or condominium type development. So that's a fact. And we verified the data with other residential developers throughout the state, and that's a pretty common number. So I know there's a perception that you have 1 or 2 kids per housing unit. That's not even close to the truth. It's much, much lower than that. And the other part of that is that, if you're not aware, Middletown school population is declining. It's declining somewhat significantly. There was a time when Middletown had over 13,000 kids in the school system. Now we're barely at 10. In fact, we're probably under 10 at this point. So, so there should be capacity in the schools. Now, that doesn't mean that there are some areas of the town that might be growing faster than others. So some towns might be, some schools might be experiencing some pressure, but there's others that are not. But that's an issue for the school district to solve, to move people about. But in terms of an overall impact on the school system, there's not one, and there won't be one as a result of that development. And a fiscal impact analysis.
Saying that building about 250 units, residential units at those
I'm sure there'll be students.
There'll be students, of course.
There won't be one per every.
It won't have a negative financial impact on the township. No, it will not.
And beside that, going back to the next four, beside the graphic analysis, that the rotation will be, again, is there any plan to do an analysis, critical analysis at any time to ensure that?
I believe if you check with the planning department, very early on in the process, there was a fiscal impact analysis done on development, and it should be in their files. I couldn't recall the numbers off the top of my head, but there was one done, and it's positive.
And that analysis takes into consideration tax rates given to, here the numbers about the commercial developer getting tax rate.
I would say don't listen to rumors. I would say don't listen to rumors. There's been no discussion about that at this point.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, too. Anyone else wishing to be heard this evening? Mr. Barrett.
Sean Burns, 80 West Branch. Just a few things. I've brought it up before, but there's some way to, I don't know what the next reiteration of the contract is for garbage, but I really think we need more recycling pickups. It's just tough once every week with recycling. And I know you're getting locked in there, maybe tough to amend right now, but when that time comes, it'd be great.
We do have the ability, though, to acquire additional containers as a.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, this can't be open to contract.
Yeah. I just think in general.
I get you.
Recycling waste is.
Totally with you.
Okay.
Totally there with you.
Yeah. Again, I'll just put in my request for live streaming or video meetings. I did check. I think the Civic Plus website allows it. It is a module I don't think you guys have that you would have to purchase. I think it's worth it. Something for consideration going down the road. I think it's not. I think there used to be a concern that people with grants get a lot. I really don't think so. I think it's a great way to engage the public and get them decision making. As far as Stevenson goes, and yes, I do live close by, so I guess I'm biased in a sense. Although where I am, I wouldn't hear the side. It's far out where it's not an immediate impact on. But this gentleman, this is not very gentleman, it's both who moved across from the Bidwell Farms. It really is a unique piece of property. There's something about it. You have to go down that narrow road, you get in there, and when you get in there, you really don't see anything else. It's just a park in its natural state. Yes, it's just fields and it's not trees, a lot of it, but that's kind of what makes it special. There's a lot of animals back there, insects, birds, you name it. There is really not much left around like that. And I think when you balance, again, I know it feels the need for that, and I get that, but I just tip in favor of protecting that because over time, once you lose that, it doesn't come back. And we have lost it in various instances. I get it, private property, nothing you can do about a lot of structures. But when we can do something about it, I'd like to see us try to make that a permanent, to make it permanent. And that is the state it will be in, that passive state where you can go in there nature is there in a way that it's not in a lot of other parks around town. It's more like a nature preserve in a way than a park. So I just ask that you consider that. And there are things you can do there. I think in terms of a not-for-profit or community organization, where Sickles used to farm there, you could have organic farming there, you could have sustainable stuff that's done with the schools. I don't know what the plans are with the house, but I think it'd be a good idea to have someone living there. Because I go by it every day, it's been over time, I'm down, and I'm sure that's something that's on there. Yeah, but anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else this evening wishing to be heard? Seeing none, a motion to close the public and adjourn, please. Second.
Mayor Hybel.
Yes.
Mayor Ricciardi.
Yes.
Mayor Middleton. Yes. Deputy Mayor Dori.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.